The recording started.
Super. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. It's Monday, 3rd of August. My name is Lloyd Stock. I'm based in England, as you can probably tell. And delighted to have this opportunity to meet with you all as um, part of your development, your training for Blackboard Ultra. Today's focus is on just orienting ourselves to the overall Blackboard environment. So Blackboard navigation, making sure that you can always you always feel comfortable about where you are and how to move around. We'll talk about some common design concepts that will help you make the most of moving around in Blackboard. And then we'll talk about communication tools, which are very similar to the ones that you'll be, if you've used Blackboard before, then you'll be very familiar with these tools. They just have a modern look and feel about them. Some of the workflows have been modernized as well. Um, and and hopefully you'll leave with a sense of how, from a pedagogical point of view, the experience in Ultra is actually uh, absolutely on a par with what you might have done previously. I am 20 years in this role at Blackboard. I manage a team of consultants here in England who do very similar things to what the US team are involved in. They also do more strategic consulting as well, but we're delighted to support this project here as part of your modernization. Um, the focus of today is on four main things. As I've mentioned already, first thing is you should come away with a clearer sense of how to navigate through the Blackboard environment. You should be able to identify the key features of the interface in Ultra. And then thirdly and fourthly, you should be able to understand how you can use the capabilities in Blackboard Ultra to facilitate community building and to monitor students and um, make interventions either between you as an instructor and the student, or support students themselves in communicating across the length of the course. As we go through, I'm very happy to take questions as they come up. Let me just see if I can move that across to a different window so that I can. No, it seems to want to stay on that window. Okay, no worries. So yeah, if there are any questions that come up as we go through the session, I'll try and keep an eye on chat. But you can also just come on the mic or raise your hand. I'm very happy to have questions as we go along, so that as you think about them, we can address those. And what I'll do is, if it's a question that we're going to address in the future session, I think there's sessions on tests, on assignments, on AI is one of the last sessions we've got in this series. If it's going to come up in detail in a subsequent session, I'll just let you know that, and then you can work with Tara and the other folks at Colwell to find out when that session is, so that you can get a deeper dive into that topic. If it's very much what the meats and potatoes of what we're covering today, um, then I'm happy to you know go in slightly different directions to try and accommodate those questions as they come up. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump in. Let's talk about navigating in Ultra. Perhaps before we look at the actual Ultra course itself, we just make sure we're comfortable with navigating outside of a course. So let's take a look at a sort of typical activity page here in Blackboard. On the left-hand side, you can see we've got this menu. When you shrink the interface down to like a mobile phone, the menu drops off to the side and is available under this the hamburger icon on the left-hand side. But if we're using a full screen, that's what I'm really going to be using today. Then you have this sort of three-column layout. On the left-hand column here is the menu. So you've got your profile. This is where you can make sure that the presence that you have across your different courses in Blackboard is made more human by putting in a profile picture. It's dead easy to do. If you want me to show you that, I can, but it's very simple to do. And it's where you set up your notifications for how you want Blackboard across these three different types of notification channels to communicate with you about things that are happening in the environment. You can also set up these from the activity stream, two places, same thing, and you can tell Blackboard by tapping on that. You can tell Blackboard how you want it to notify you about different things that are happening inside of the course. These are going to be set by the institution, set by Coldwell, and then trickled down. So the flexibility that you have over any of these individual triggers for notification is going to be set by institutional policy around interactions with student and interactions around communications. And it should align with other communication policies that you have so that people aren't being flooded with notifications, but are being given notice, intentional notice about things across the stream. So that's what appears in Blackboard. That's this here, the activity stream. You can see here under activity stream, I've got a notification that one of my students on a course that I'm teaching has triggered an alert. I've got four students here, and then I've got a new notification here about a new course that I've been enrolled in. So those stream notifications can be tailored based on, as I say, what's been allowed by the institution, and then what works for you as an individual. You've also got the email notification channel, and you have the ability to do more rapid fire communications, or what I prefer, which is a daily digest every day of these types of activities that are listed here. Great way to stay abreast of things that are going on. And again, the particular notifications that you'll have obviously would depend on your role. And then if you happen to be using the Blackboard device, the Blackboard app on a mobile device, you can also tailor make the notifications there as well. I'm going to close that without saving. So that's the profile page, an opportunity to make sure that you're arriving in Blackboard with a sort of human face. Makes a big difference in discussions, in conversations, in the gradebook. Makes a big difference just to students seeing an actual human version of you, or something, even if it's not your face, something that communicates you. Could be a picture of your pet, could be something else, but it needs to be it's preferable if it's a human face, and it just makes all those community interactions far more human. We have the activity stream, which I'll come back to in a little while. We have the courses page, which is where at the moment I'm searching and filtering against this little this string of text here, so that we're just looking at the courses that I'm going to be focusing on with you today. But as you know, courses, we remove that filter. Courses are organized by terms. They're organized by different years, and so you can quite easily find the course that you're looking for in this list, either in this grid view, or if you tap this icon here, it's going to put it into a list view, and that may be preferential if you've got lots and lots of courses and you want to see more on one page. You can tap this little star icon here to pin a course at the top of this list. We don't call it pinning, we call it favorites. It's the same concept. It's just a way of helping you, reducing the need to scroll down potentially to a course that for one reason or another is vertically quite far down, but that actually you need frequent access to. Okay. And just checking the chat. No, okay, good. So that's the courses page. We're going to talk about communication today, so I'll just highlight the calendar tool. At this level, it's going to show me all of the different events and due dates and scheduled items across all of my courses. And you can configure by tapping the settings icon. You can configure which courses are represented in this overall view here. And you can filter the view just by tapping the due dates icon. You can filter it just to show you items that are due, which as an instructor, I'm logged in as an instructor. Obviously, it's unlikely that I would see anything here, but as a student, I would see all of the different assignments and tests and other assessments that I've been assigned to. I would see that here on this page. Um, so we'll look at this in more detail when we talk about communication, but just giving you a quick high-level overview. And then the messages page, without having to go into each and every course and use the messages tool inside the course, from this view here, I can see all of the different message inboxes across my different courses that I'm enrolled on, and I can tap into any one of these in order to uh, see what messages have been taking place in any given course. This one's actually been turned off. So it's going to, let me find my music one, music composition. It takes me straight into the messages tool for that given course. Sorry, was there a question? I think I heard someone come off mic. Come on, mic.
Hey, Lloyd, one quick question, if you don't mind. I don't want to hold up your presentation, but going back, will you go dive deeper into the calendar? Because I like to see how that gets populated, but we'll do that at another time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We can talk about that in more detail shortly. Yeah,
Okay, thank
thanks, Jorge. Good. Okay. Switch to this one here. Um, So outside of the individual courses that we're teaching on, we've got these overall communication tools. We've mentioned the calendar. We mentioned messages. Both communication tools both allow us to see holistically across the Blackboard environment, all the courses and all the things that we're communicating or are being sent to us in order to communicate with us about our Blackboard courses. And then finally, we've got the grades area, where at again a high level you can see across all the courses that you're teaching on or that you're learning on as a student, um, how your cohort is doing or how you're doing, respectively. And this is a great way to identify cohorts and courses that you're teaching on where you perhaps need to give specific attention. You can tap this course activity related to grades button here to look at the spread of student interaction in terms of time uh, compared with their grade. And then you can tap on individual students in this view in order to actually contact that student. You can view the details. You can see Maria here. She's spending a fairly decent amount of time in this course. She's doing relatively well. And I can tap the view details button in order to take a close look at Maria's behavior in the course. Um, and then I can actually use these buttons up here to communicate with her. So I could send her a message, I could organize an appointment. So one of the things you're going to see with Ultra as we go along is that at any given point, you can take action on the data you're looking at. It's not just, oh, here's some interaction data about your students. Now go and use a communication tool in order to contact them. Communication tools are less of a tool, it's more of a capability. And the distinction being it's not a separate thing that I necessarily have to go off and use. It's woven into the fabric of the environment. And so wherever I want to see student interaction data, I should be able to see it right there whether I'm in a discussion or whether I'm in a test or in an assignment, I should be able to see that data, and wherever I can see that data, I should be able to take action on it. And so these communication tools, calendar and messages, give me the ability to do that. So a lot can be achieved from a sort of a high level point of view, just from the navigation menu here in Blackboard, um, and you'll get into a habit, no doubt, of combining these tools in a way that works best for you. Some people might be like, right, I'm going to be primarily driven by what I see in activity stream. That's going to drive my sort of sense of to do, where I'm going to focus. And you can see actually on this activity stream page here that not only do I have a stream of recent activities or things that maybe need my attention, but I've also got a summary of all the courses I'm teaching of where there are particular groups of students that might need attention. So that ties in with what we were just looking at in the grade book. And if I tap on that six number of six here, that brings me back into the same view that we're just looking at. So the same analytics tools, the same data tools are accessible from multiple different points in order for you to be able to take action again where it most makes sense, rather than sort of having to think, right, I need to go and check on data about student interaction, student engagement, and I have to go to a tool for that. That's less of the concept in Ultra. It's more like we have these tools, but they're woven into the fabric of the way that the system works, such that you can access them with minimal friction at any point during your workday. Okay, let's move on now and talk a little bit about navigation in the Blackboard environment, first of all. And I'm just going to, rather than use screenshots, I'm just going to dive straight in here to a course. We'll look at one of the ones that that you have been you've shared with us. So, first off, let's start in the top left-hand corner of this new course experience and work our way down, because that's kind of this is the first thing that we're going to see. This little house icon here, if I tap that, it takes me back to this base navigation. Okay. Supposing I was in star both of these courses so I have access to them easily. Suppose I was in a discussion area and I'm in the overall class discussion, for example. At this stage, you can see that Ultra shows a pane over the top of the course outline. And so what you're seeing here is you can't, the actual home button is obscured. Now, depending on what side of the screen you're using, it might be more or less visible, but it's obscured. And that's deliberately designed to give you a sense of the fact that you are in a discussion, and to get out of the discussion, all you need to do is tap this cross icon here, which takes us back to the previous page we were on. But it gives me that sense of depth, gives me that sense of going deeper into something. And then you tap the cross icon and it brings you back out here. But whenever you tap the home icon, it's always going to take you back into the base navigation. Next up is the course switcher. Okay, so rather than having to tap the home icon and then tap courses and then tap the course that you want to open, if there are recently accessed courses that you've been playing with, or you just want to find another course that you've been looking at, you can do what I've done here. You can type in the name of the course and then very quickly access that course without having to go via the home navigation, the base navigation. And now you'll see, if I bring up the home switcher, get the course switcher again, that the previous course that we were just in, which looks like it's closed by the presence of this padlock, is very accessible to me right here. So the course switcher, really useful to be able to switch from one course to another without having to do extra clicks. It just cuts down that friction and that extra. It's a few seconds time saved, and if it's one of those things you do regularly, it will be a big bonus. Okay. Now, inside the header here, we have the name of the course, and then it's followed by a course ID. Now, I don't know precisely how you have it structured at Coldwell. It might be different, but these are institutionally configured settings, whether you have the course ID there or not. But what the benefit of that, of course, is that even when I leave this page here, which gives me the title and course ID, if I go to discussions page, I can still see the course title and the course ID. So that is handy to have that at the top there. On the right-hand side, we have core settings. Again, some of this will be set out by the institution, but things like progress tracking, whether you want that turned on or off, things like whether you want the roster showing, what message configuration you want. These are all configured in here. We use Collaborate on this environment. We have that in here, but you may not have that in here. You may have other tools that you have configured that are showing here as well. These are high-level core settings, which don't really belong anywhere else than here in a overall core settings area. Okay. Um, Next up, we have the overall course menu. And on the far left, we when we open a course, we land on this content page, which shows us this course content outline with all our different learning modules. We'll come and talk about that in a little while. Then we have the calendar, the announcements, discussions, and messages tool, all designed to facilitate communication and the building of community. We also have the gradebook tool, which there is a dedicated session that we're going to be looking at that on. And then we have things like analytics, groups, and achievements. Again, whether you have access precisely to these tools in Coldwell will depend on the way your environment is configured. But ready access to these tools from the course menu. As I keep mentioning, those tools there, you don't have to keep coming back to them in order to use them. So, for example, earlier I showed you how you could use the messages tool from BaseNav. Or you could use the messages tool when you're looking at some data about a student. You don't always have to come back here in order to contact that student. Look out for that little message icon, that little envelope icon. That will make life a lot easier for you. If you think, right, I want to message a student, is there, and there won't always be, but in many cases there will be easy access to one of these tools from the course menu. It's the same when you're in an assignment. So yes, you can go to the gradebook. Absolutely, you can go to the gradebook. But you can also access the gradebook from within an assessment. I'll give you an example here. Let's go to the discussion tool in a separate course that I'm running. Don't worry about this for the time being. We'll come back and talk about discussions in just a while. But here's a discussion that's being created, and you notice that we're grading that discussion. Now, how do I access the gradebook from here? Well, you might say, well, close the discussion, go into the gradebook, and then try and find the discussion here. Which one was it? I can't remember that. And it's a very cumbersome way of accessing the gradebook. When in actual fact, if I just bring up the discussion here, you'll notice across the top of the tool that we're in, the discussion tool, there are two extra tabs, one of which is grades and participation. And this is where I could do the grading for this individual discussion. And I'll come back and show you this in more detail later. What I'm just signaling really here at this stage is that the workflows in Ultra have been designed to make things quicker for you, more expeditious, more streamlined. And it might take some relearning or unlearning of old behaviors to get the benefit of those optimized, more streamlined workflows. But what you need to sort of unlearn is this sort of more tool mentality versus we have these capabilities built into the platform and they're woven in to the fabric of the way that the system is built. And so I can often access things like the gradebook, for example, right here. Student activity, I can access it right here. I don't have to bring up a reporting dashboard to look at the activity on the discussion board. It's right here within the tool. I probably have a better example of that. Let's just take a look at this welcome forum. Yeah, here we go. So here's some data, and we'll come back and look at this in more detail. Don't worry about missing out on what this is showing, including this grading interface as well. We'll come back and talk about that briefly a little bit later. Okay, so one of the first takeaways I want you to really experience from this training is uh, Ultra's different. How can I make the most of those differences in a positive way? And one of them is this concept that these tools they're there, yes, but they're often woven into different parts of the student and instructor experience, and we want you to get the benefit of that, of course. On the far right-hand side is student preview, and that works just the way student preview works today. It's going to create a user with the student course role, and you can simulate now accessing this course, interacting with this course as a student. And then once you've finished, you tap the exit button, and you get that prompt that you'll be familiar with. Do you want to save the data or do you want to discard the data? We'll tap save. And then when you go to the grade book, what you would expect to see under your students, as well as your other students that might be enrolled in the course, is this preview user, which is the student preview account that's been enrolled temporarily in the course. You can obviously delete that if you need to. Okay. So hopefully that's helpful as just kind of an introduction to the way that let's pull this over here. There we go. The way that the course is structured, that the interface is structured, I should say, and the different tools are structured across the system. Any questions so far about navigating in Blackboard? All make sense? Don't see any chat comments so far, so yeah, thank you. I love it. Love the thumbs up. That's just what we want. Okay, excellent. So let's make sure we're covering things in order here. Right, before we go any further then in talking about communication, I want to talk about navigating the actual course experience here. Let's work our way a bit further down. We have the course title, the course ID, and then we have this course content. That's what we're looking at on this page. If we move away, you can see that the experience changes completely. So what's showing in this area here is crucially important. On the right-hand side, you can see a search icon, which allows me to search for a individual item in this list, or an item that, there might be multiple items that correspond with the string of text that I put in here. And when it finds something that matches what I type in here, I can tap that item, and it'll actually open that item, deep link into that item, in order for me to bring it up, access it, modify it, or as the student to read the information. So that's really a really useful tool. And then here's a really important concept in Ultra. You'll notice that this is quite clean. It's even cleaner if we go back to the student preview again. Let's just go into student preview. So they have a search icon. They don't have the three dots icon. They don't have any lines here and here. They do have, if progress tracking is turned on, they do have an additional little icon here. It's actually an interactive tool where I can actually monitor progress. So if I go into an item, notice how now that item is actually marked as partially complete. But apart from that, it's very clean for the students. It's less clean for me because obviously I need more controls in order to be able to build and manage this course. And I want to just highlight a few things that are common across the whole of the course experience. The first one is these three dots. Okay, so because we want to keep it clean, we want to keep as much functionality off the page as possible, but it also needs to be accessible to you if you need it. So let's tap this menu here. Notice this has given me context sensitive options and actions that I can perform related to this individual course. So for example, if I wanted to update multiple due dates on items across my course, I could tap batch edit and do that. If I wanted to import content from a different course, I can do that from here, upload a package from a previous course and import those items. If I want to copy items from another course that I'm enrolled on as an instructor, this allows me to do that. It's really, really, really cool. If I want to export this as a package, as a zip package to maybe share with a different colleague in different institution, I can do that. If I want to see what's happening in terms of tasks and activities behind the scenes and Blackboard system, I can bring up task logs, and I can also look at unused files as part of housekeeping and spring cleaning in my course. So the key here is if you're looking for extra actions that you can perform in any given area, look for the more options button. Okay. See here, this is called a learning module. This object here is called a learning module. And if I tap the three dots, I get more actions. They are respective to the object that I'm actually clicking on. So this is a learning module. We don't have the same options that we have here. We have options around student engagement. We have options around editing or deleting this. So whenever you're looking for more actions that you can perform, look for the three dots. Okay. Same in the gradebook. Go to the gradebook items. I might need to go to my other course because there's nothing in here. Yeah, let me just go to my other course. So gradebook items. See on the right hand side, we've got the three dots icon. Okay, I can edit and delete one of my gradable items. Okay, so that's the first thing. The three dots is the options menu that gives you context-sensitive actions you can perform in any given area across the system. The next icon, which you've actually already stumbled across, is the little gear icon. This is for settings, not for actions that you want to perform, but additional configuration and settings that you want to tweak and adjust for any given item. So, for example, if I was to go into one of my documents, which is basically an item, if you're familiar with the previous version of Blackboard, on the right-hand side here, I've got a settings icon, and I can tap that, and it gives me additional settings for this particular item. I can do the same in the gradebook. In the gradebook, I've got the settings icon. So if I'm looking not now to perform an action, but to perform to undertake some configuration in this space, and I can't see it, a menu for it, tap the settings icon. You'll invariably find that configuration item under the settings icon. If I was to go into one of my assignments, just find here's a test here that I've created. Notice that under the assignment settings there is a gear icon, and the assignment settings summarizes for me all of the present configuration that's been put in place for this particular assessment. But there might be other options available to me, for example, like using a rubric or aligning with outcomes. If I tap the settings icon, again, a little pane pops out with this little close icon, this purple close icon. It might be a different color in your environment. And then I can go ahead and configure all these different tools and settings. Okay, so it's the same across the whole Ultra environment. Whenever you're looking for options, you're looking for the three dots menu. Whenever you're looking for settings, you're looking for that configuration icon. Discussions, it's the same. Got the three dots on any individual discussion with context-sensitive actions that I can take. And then if I'm trying to change the overall behavior of the discussions tool, tap the settings icon. And in this case, it's just limited to whether students can create discussion topics or not. Okay, so there's a common design language that's designed to make it more intuitive for you to take action in an intuitive way in any given area of Blackboard that you might not have experienced before. Now you know how those icons work and what they're signaling and the purpose of those actions and icons. You now then can go into a completely foreign environment that I haven't taken you in today, and you can think, right, I can't see what I want to do here. I wonder if it's an action I want to perform, then it's probably under the options menu. And if it's a setting I want to configure, it's probably under the settings icon. Okay. One other concept that you will find is pretty common across the course experience in Ultra is the ability to move objects by using drag and drop, or in some cases using the keyboard. So let me show you, for example, let's go back to this course here, because this is based on a Coldwell template that the folks at Coldwell provided us with. You can see I've got my getting started learning module. Notice this little accent, sort of it's an inverted accent here. If I tap that, notice how it expands the folder. Okay. Now you can just tap anywhere in this interface, um, but for sort of getting into the habit, that this icon here allows me to toggle the expansion and collapsing of the contents of this learning module. Okay, students will have the same thing, and so wherever you see that icon, it suggests that you can collapse and expand a panel of the interface, what we call a learning module. Okay, um, so that's another common UI element. And then finally, like I said, the ability to move objects around. Now, there are some slight differences here to the way that this is visually conveyed. In the case of a learning module, see this little uh, uh, series of six dots here? If I tap that with my mouse and then press and hold and drag up, you'll notice I start to see other things happening in the interface. Allows me to potentially drop this inside of another learning module, or in this case, switch these two learning modules around. If we collapse that a moment, and you can always zoom out to make this a little bit easier, so you've got more learning modules on the page. So I could perhaps move these around here. Now I don't necessarily recommend you do move these around because if students come to your course and these initial four learning modules are in different order, it could make it a little bit more a little bit confusing for them. So these initial learning modules in your course template, we really want to organize them in the same way. So let's put them back as they were. But in any given learning module, we use the same drag and drop concept in order to move things around. So you'll see these three dots again. I can drag and drop, drag and drop. Now, again, there may be an order even in this particular learning module where we want to keep it more consistent. But I'm just showing you the action of moving things around. It can be done very easily with the mouse. If you prefer to use your keyboard, you can do that as well. So you can tap on the given object that you want to move. Let's say I want to move course polishes beneath the syllabus. Tap on that. Tap on the edge here. No, let's try that again. Let's tap on this icon on the left-hand side here. Um, there we go. And then when you do that, you get this little halo, this blue halo that appears around the different parts of the content. And if you keep tabbing over with your keyboard, eventually the halo will appear around the move icon here. That's where we want it. Tab to go forward, Shift Tab to go backwards. Now that I'm zoomed in, I'm focusing on the move icon, which is what we were using with our mouse. If I press the space key on my keyboard, I can now use the cursor keys on my keyboard to move this object up and down where I want it. In this case, I want it beneath the syllabus. It shows me there a little blue background that's indicating where it's going to land. If I press the space key again, it now drops it into that place. This may be useful, particularly if you wanted to move an object like this one, for example, down here. Press tab again, press space. I want to move it out of the learning module and I want to move it all the way down, somewhere near the bottom. It actually might be easier to use your cursor keys if you have them on your keyboard than it potentially is to use your mouse, because that requires some fairly magic drag and drop skills. So keyboard movement of objects, really handy. Little sort of extra, little extra sort of magic thrown in for you there. That not everyone knows that. So so you're now in possession of something that's quite niche, but yeah, really useful to know that. Okay, now it's the same in the discussions. Let me show you an example. Okay, so notice the six dots again. If I want to move this welcome forum where it ought to be, I can just drag it up with my mouse and put it at the top. Move discussion 1 over discussion 2. Same in the gradebook. So if you go to this view of the gradebook, we don't have the 6 dots. It would have been made more sense if it was, but it isn't. But we do have the double-headed arrows. And so if I want to move this group item here beneath the My UCA calculation, just drag and drop. So very easy to drag and drop across the environment. Wherever you're going to move items around, typically it will be a drag and drop action that's required, or in the case of keyboard, a tab and space drop combined in order to move things around. Okay, so really useful to remember those concepts, because if you land somewhere in the course that we haven't covered today and you want to know how to navigate around and how to perform actions and configure items, you can use all of that sort of intel now to you can apply that in an unknown foreign space within the course, and you'll get on just fine in exploring those different areas. Okay, so we're working our way from the top all the way down here, and we've now pretty much explained what's happening in this course content area. Let's talk about the details and actions pane on the right-hand side. So on the right-hand side here, we have instructor presence for facilitated courses, which is where the first place we see my profile picture appearing to students. As an instructor, I can see some automations here, which we're not going to cover in detail today. We'll mention them briefly when we talk about messages. And then in the details and actions pane, you will have a wide range of functionality available to here related to the overall course configuration, tools that don't belong on this horizontal menu here. And so they're in the course content area under details and actions. And you may see configuration items here that I don't see. You may not see items that I do see. It slightly depends on how your Blackboard environment is set up, what integrations you have. So don't worry if your mileage varies a little bit in this space. But you obviously have the roster, which is where you can see everyone that's enrolled in your course. And if they've got accommodations, a uniquely Ultra feature, which allows you to give individual students course level accommodations in the form of extensions and the form of extra time on assessments. You'll see those as well. Let's just put 10% in there. So put 50% and click save. You'll see those now represented by the presence of a little purple ribbon icon against that student. If I was viewing this in the gradebook, let's drop out, go to the gradebook, go to students. You'll also see the accommodations icon in the gradebook as well. And so wherever you are in the environment, you know, okay, this student has some accommodations that have been set up. And you don't have to do those on a per assessment basis like you had to do in the previous version of Blackboard. So that's really handy to have. Course image. So this image appears across the top of the page here and is often shared with a thumbnail that appears on the base navigation view of courses. That's configured here. And let me let you into a little secret. Whenever you're configuring course images, you'll see this image icon. You'll see it in learning modules. You'll see it here in the course banner area. You'll see it potentially, trying to think in other areas, yeah, possibly in generation of questions. When you tap this icon, you will have 3 different image sources potentially to choose from. In this case, I've just got the 2, upload device and stock images from Unsplash. And what's going to happen here is Blackboard is going to take some text from my course and use it to generate what it thinks might be some ideal imagery for my course. If I think, you know what, you've completely got the wrong end of the stick there, I can say, no, this is actually about counselling, and I can find a preferred image. Let's go for this one here. If you're not happy with the images that you see, you can actually tap this next button here, and it will keep searching. Now, the wonderful thing about this is that all these images are from Unsplash, so you have no worries about copyright, royalties, and all that kind of stuff. It's all taken care of via Blackboard's relationship with Unsplash and the way that Unsplash actually works. Those of you that know it, and if you're working in Blackboard documents, as you will, I think, with my colleague in Wednesday session. Let's have a look. Document creation editing. Yeah, so in Wednesday session, on Wednesday this week, we'll be looking at creating documents in Ultra. And again, you can pull images from Unsplash for the purposes of making things pop a little bit and not have any worries that the imagery is problematic from a copyright perspective. Okay, so when you tap next, you're given the option to actually frame the image. And as it's a very thin image, this probably isn't the right image. So I need to go back and find a slightly better one. But when you've got the image that you want, you can click save, and that then becomes the course image. Makes the whole thing pop a little bit. Don't get into the habit unless you have other, specific reasons for it. Don't get into the habit of putting too much text in that image. It makes it potentially inaccessible, although you will note that whenever you're uploading images, you can put in alternative text or you can mark the image as descriptive. So you can get into the habit of doing that if you want. But the course title and ID should be sufficient information, really, to be communicated. The course image is really just designed to serve some sort of aesthetic purpose. Maybe set some expectations around context and what this course is going to be about. It's not really designed to communicate much more information than that. It just makes things look nice. Okay. Now you can do the same for these images here, but that's not on the agenda for today. You'll probably come to that on Wednesday. So these images that are templated images, these can be changed if you want to contextualize them for your course in the same way that we've just done it for the course banner. Okay. I think that will suffice. We'll come back to these other tools as we go. But essentially, if you can't find the tool you're looking for across the top of the horizontal menu, you may find it in the Details Actions pane. And if you're using integrations with publishers and other third-party tools, you will find that here in the Books and Tools area. Okay. Let's move on and talk a little bit more about communication, and we'll start off with the calendar. I know we had a question earlier about that. So let's make sure we explain how that works. So in the calendar, this is going to show you, if we look at my Fundamentals of Artificial Intelligence course, it'd be a bit more meaningful. This is going to show you all of the items that are on your course that have due dates. So if we go to, let's go to my phase 1 folder here and take a look at an assignment. Notice on the right-hand side here, we have a very old due date. Let's update that to, let's say Friday, midnight on Friday. Tap Save. So this is an assignment that I'm setting for my students. And now what we'll see in the calendar is that on Friday, we've got this one item due. If we scroll down to the bottom at midnight, we can see our assignment. So whenever you put an item in the course, a test, an assignment, a journal, whenever it's got a due date, it's always going to show up on here. And students can filter for due dates, as we mentioned from base navigation. They can filter for due dates by tapping the due dates button just to look at it in a focused view. You can look at this in a month view and in a day view. And on top of that, you can add things like a course schedule to communicate your availability as an instructor, or you can add individual events in order to communicate something like a field trip that you might be going on, or an in-person event. And any locations you type could include a URL. So if you're actually meeting on Zoom, you could put the Zoom URL in there, and that allows students to access that online session more easily. So communication is obviously key in particularly a blended course or an online course, fully online course. And so making sure students know when things are due and they can get access to that information, they can see what's coming up. This is going to feed the activity stream for students. So, a failure to communicate that information either in due dates or directly on the calendar is going to make the activity stream less useful for students in terms of particularly, undergraduates who haven't perhaps developed those good first year students won't develop those good habits in terms of time management. And so this is kind of super important for them to be able to see, what's next, what's due today and what's due tomorrow, never mind next week. Super important. So you can tap at the top here and you can put in, something of the description. You can use this date picker to choose a date at any point in the future. You can use this time icon here to go through time, or you can just tap in with your keyboard and you can just put in time that represents the actual time itself. Let's just try that again. 1 a.m. So it's converting it for me because it's AM, not PM. So you can also do repeating events. So if you are doing a regular online event or a regular in-person event, you can represent those in here as well. And you've got all of the tools that you typically see in a calendar here for this type of schedule in order for you to communicate those repeating events. And if it's just a one-off event for the student, then you can communicate that as well. Like, this is the field trip, so let's tap all day, and that now appears on the calendar. Okay. So yeah, really useful for students particularly to be able to look at this and see at a glance what they need to be doing. And if you're not using due dates for any reason, you could still put an item, a separate, discrete item on the calendar to give students a sense of timing and sequence and progress.
Hey
Okay.
Lloyd, a quick question.
Yeah.
When you're setting due dates, let's say, because I've had students in prior semesters, they like to jump ahead, but for assignments, let's say assignment 4 is going to start on, let's say, October and ends in another week. I don't want them to have that assignment visible, but it can still be on the calendar so they know something. Because some like to jump ahead and do assignments that shouldn't be done until there's a lecture or something.
Yeah. So when you in Wednesday's session, we'll talk a little bit about the ability you have to control what would be called adaptive release, I think it was called in the previous version of Blackboard. It's called just release conditions. And Sarah will show you how you can set up delays around access to assignments and things like that, Joe, so that you can sequence the learning better. But yes, the due dates are still going to appear on the calendar.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay. Um, so that's the calendar tool. Announcements. We now have data on announcements as well as the announcement itself. So if we tap into this announcement, for example, it's a scheduled draft. Nothing particularly fancy going on here, but it's scheduled for a specific date. When we're ready, we can post that. The one of the things you have in Ultra now is you also have the ability to do video announcements. I'm not going to go into this now because we're using Zoom and I don't want to disrupt the audio and video, but you can use your camera, you can use your mic, you can share your screen, and this is a great way to be more human in the delivery of these kinds of communication. Um, and hopefully your mileage in terms of student engagement will improve. Your experience will improve in terms of communicating this type of message. So it's a welcome message from you as an instructor. You can include it in the course content outline. So you could put it in here. Sorry, let's go back to your template. So in the instructor information, you could put a welcome in here. But because you've got the video ability in announcements, you may want to send out an actual, video of yourself via the announcements tool. This is going to show you items, announcements that have been drafted but not actually posted yet. It's going to show you announcements that have been sent historically. And when you tap on announcement that has been set, let me see if I can do it with this one here. Yeah, see now I've got a viewers column. And so it's going to show me how many students have viewed this announcement. It's going to help me to see which students have and haven't. And it's going to help me to message students to intervene with this data for this student in order to make sure that they don't get behind. So messaging tools right there in the environment for announcements. And that brings us nicely on to the messages capability. Let's go back to your course here and look at messages. Now, what we've already noticed is that messages is not just a tool, it's woven into the rest of the course. But if you want to send a message to a student via Blackboard and have the thread, the conversation thread, all stay within this course, then you can absolutely do that right from in this tool here. First thing it's going to ask you to do is to pick a student or a group in order to communicate with them. So we can use our preview user here. We can type a message. Hi, I'll put Maria because I often use Maria Mendez as my student. We can then type our message. We can send an email copy if we want it to be doubled up on email. Maybe it's a really important message I need to communicate and I don't want it to be missed. I don't want Maria to have to come into Blackboard to see this. So I can send an email copy if I want. And then I'll tap send. And that message then gets put into a queue and gets sent. And what you'll notice is we have sort of conversation thread style UI here. Okay, so if I quickly switch over to student preview, I'm looking at the time. I'm seeing that we're approaching the end, but we've got another 15 minutes. That's great. That should be just fine. I was worried we were finishing on the hour, but we've got another 15 minutes. So that's good. And I will stop and take any questions in a few minutes. So if we go to student preview now and take a look at what it looks like from our preview users experience, the first thing we're going to notice when we get there should have shown us a badge. Why is the badge not showing? Oh, I need to reload. Some permissions problem. Let's just reload and that would explain why the badge wasn't there, I think. Yeah, excellent. So notice now that Blackboard is communicating to me that there is an unread message or something that requires my attention within the messages tool. Okay, you'd see this from base nav as well. But now tapping on the messages tool shows me the recently opened thread from my instructor. And the order of the elements is reversed so that we can see that the instructor sent me a message. Hi Lloyd, I'll just send that quickly back. We'll reply, and that now appears on the right hand side. So we have a conversation going in this messages tool. Okay. Now, over the course of your delivering this particular course, you will see obviously multiple message conversations. It's just like email in that sense. You might be writing messages to one individual, but on multiple topics. And so you might have multiple message threads. But if you can, I would suggest bringing them all together. So whenever you communicate with this particular individual, open the message thread, send a message. It stops the sort of chaos potentially of lots of message threads opening. And that way it makes things a little bit easier. Within the context of groups, there is a similar kind of messaging experience. and we'll look at that in a separate session. But that's basically the messaging tool. You'll see it all over the place. So if we go back to my course, because I've got students in there, we go to the grade book, we look at students. We can see it here. You can message a student there, and what it does is it opens the same interface, but it configures the student's name against the message envelope, if you like, and then all I have to do is type a message. So it makes it easier, really, to use the messages tool inside of a separate space within Blackboard than necessarily to open a separate message. It depends on what the use case is, but you've got both options available to you. Okay. Let's see. Let's talk now a little bit about discussions, another communication tool. And in this case, you can see I've already created a discussion, but you can create your own up here by tapping new discussion. And whenever you do that, you'll notice that this common UI appears. Okay. What's common is that on the top of the page, there will be the description of the item. Okay, so we'll say this is an icebreaker. Beneath that, there will be the actual task itself, a test, an assignment, a journal. There'll be the actual task itself. So please introduce yourselves and share 3 things about yourself, one of which is a lie. And then I put more instructions in here to guide the discussion accordingly. On the top right, we have this drop down that allows me to choose whether this is visible yet to students. And by default, things will always be hidden, which is kind of the default you want. Or to Joe's point earlier, you have the ability to delay this visibility by a certain date, or by some other criteria. Maybe they need to complete the module 1 quiz before they can conduct the module 2 discussion, things like that. You can use the grade book to sort of sequencing that way, or even gamify your course by unlocking things, by getting a code from somewhere else that unlocks. You can design all that into your course, and you can use release conditions to design that kind of pedagogical workflow for your students. So that's the drop down. And then under discussion settings, we have all of the controls that allow me to make this more or less effective in a discussion. Everyone's tried discussions, but people's experience varies, often because you get students that lurk, don't engage. You get students that just want they just want to absorb, they don't want to share, or they're apprehensive about sharing. This is why an icebreaker, incidentally, if you haven't tried it, is a really good way to develop discussion literacy, i.e., the literacy to how to use this tool and start, writing and narrating and articulating yourself. Something like an icebreaker is a great way to get a discussion going because it's low stakes. It's not an academic discussion. It's just me sharing about myself. So you have all these tools that are going to enable you to manage this discussion. And if you want to grade it, you'll need to tap the grade discussion icon button, at which point all of these tools for managing a graded discussion appear. So if we look at the one I created earlier, I'm just going to cancel that and go to we'll click save on this. Here we'll tap the save button. So the prompt is there. Everything else, the analytics start to show. But let's just go back to that welcome forum where we had some previous discussions. So on the right-hand side here as an instructor, I can see, oh, Maria has posted twice. That's great. And everybody else is not engaged. And I can filter that engagement using the embedded insights report, which shows me, who hasn't participated. And lo and behold, here's a message icon that allows me to open a message envelope and contact these students. They'll receive it as an email and they'll receive it as an individual message. There's no naming and shaming here. It's just an opportunity for me to encourage engagement. So these kinds of tools, these embedded insights, are woven into Blackboard. You can actually access them directly from the content page. So if we do a search for the welcome forum, it doesn't say where it is. It's probably in, yeah, here it is. So notice if I tap the three dots, I get the student activity report. That's just what we were looking at. If I open this assignment that we were looking at earlier, tap the three dots, I get student activity for that as well. So again, expect to find embedded insights about how this particular thing that you've created in the course, how it's behaving, how it's driving or not engagement. You can find these embedded insights throughout the experience, and they're really helpful to help you understand who's engaged, who's not, and where to focus your attention in terms of moderation. Um, you might have lots and lots of replies to an individual post, which may be good or bad. It may be a hotspot for a good or bad reason, hopefully for a good reason. And there's some really robust discussion happening that that person in their reply has kind of instigated. So use this data to drive your judgment and your assessment about how you can make meaningful interactions. You don't want to be overwhelming the discussion or micromanaging it, as you well know, but this data can help you make the right choices about next steps. When it comes to grading, this is how you can filter the data for grading. This is just showing me the little part of the grade book. Anyone, let me ask you a question because I haven't asked many questions in today's session, and I apologize for that. How many of you can just put it in chat, or you can it's probably easier if you put it in chat because I'm not a Zoom expert, but you can try and respond with a reaction as well. How many of you use smart views in Blackboard? Give me a thumbs up if you use smart views in Blackboard, or a no if you didn't. No from yeah, no, I haven't. Okay. Oh, somebody giving me a thumbs up. Raymond, excellent. But most of you haven't. And that really underlines one of the challenges of any technology is sometimes there are power tools built into an application, but we aren't able to give you the benefit of them because they're sort of buried. Well, what Ultra does is it takes some of that powerful functionality that you had in the previous version of Blackboard, and it just makes it normal. So this is a smart view. It's just filtering. You're not seeing the whole gradebook here, which is kind of unnecessary and time consuming to filter it manually. You're just seeing what you need to see in order to be able to then take action. And we'll look at grading in more detail in a future session. But that's how you filter and grade that's how you look at the data for grading a discussion in Blackboard. So you have these different communication tools that will help you build community, connect with students, potentially set up groups of students that can converse themselves. And I haven't even mentioned conversations today, a unique Ultra feature that you can turn on in documents. But in Wednesday's session, we will talk a bit more about documents, and you'll have the opportunity there to look at even additional functionalities for creating student engagement across the course. Let me just check my notes. And as I do that, are there any questions from your side that you would like to ask? We have a few more minutes remaining to address those. Questions, queries, any concerns, any worries? Across from Joe. Thank you, Joe. Okay, good. Yeah, that's it.
Just want to say thank you, Lloyd.
All
Appreciate it.
right. You're very welcome. Well, thank you. Thank you for the questions throughout the session as well. And Donet's absolutely right. Like, it's all very well listening to a relative expert on these things. When you actually start playing yourself, that's where the questions are going to come up. Um, and the team at Caldwell are very well placed to support you in getting the right answers. There's always answers, but you want the right ones. You want to follow the best practices so that you are, you're able to make the most of this experience. Um, so in the next session, we'll be moving on from navigation and communication. We'll be talking about content creation. We'll be talking about, let's exit the student preview. Quickly share my screen again. Yeah, good stuff. Danette, that's great. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the share button again. Where's it gone? Share. Um, this one. So, oh, and then tap share. So what we'll be talking about on Wednesday is how you build this out here. Now, when you receive your course, it'll probably have some templated items in it, but how do you actually build things out? And one of the really cool things in Ultra is you can just tap on this plus icon here, and you can just build stuff where you want to build stuff. You can build it here, or you can build it here. You don't have to add an item and then reorganize your course. You can build it precisely where you want to build it. So remember we said you can tap on this icon here and expand. You can just hover over this middle line here if you want to add something between the syllabus and course policies and create it there, which is really cool. You can do the same in the gradebook. That's another common design concept that we've built into the way that the system works. You can build things in where you want to build things in, rather than have to worry about, organizing things after the event. So that'll be cool. That'll be a really, really interesting session on Wednesday. But thank you for being here today. I appreciate everybody's time and attention. And like the net says, get in there, dabble with the course, hit those little roadblocks in terms of Lloyd didn't cover that, or I can't remember what he said. And as you do that, that's really where the learning is going to take place, as you well know.